Persona 4 is a long-ass game. So long that my most recent draft of this video was 100 pages, Jesus Christ! If you're the kind of person that has a hard time maintaining attention on video games for long amounts of time, then I just cannot recommend this 70+ hour behemoth. Is what I would say if I wasn't exactly the type of person I just described. For me, almost any game I play is lucky to get 10 hours out of me. This may be caused by a short attention span, having too many games to choose from, or my constant need to feel productive even as I'm not actually getting anything done. But no matter what the reason may be, this game manages to hook me in a way that most games simply just cannot. Sometimes, to take a break from the work of writing and editing this review, I would play this game. If I had to sum up Persona 4's gameplay, I'd describe it as a social sim that occasionally just comes up and says, "Now, I am a turn-based dungeon crawler," and it's all tied together by the overarching goal of spending your limited time wisely. Time management is key in this game, which I must say is richly ironic. There's so many tasks to do, with some of them being required for story progression, most being completely optional, and all of it having a time limit in some way or another. Much like real life, there's just not enough time to do everything. Hell, from what I can tell, you're lucky to get all the achievements in 2 playthroughs. With all this talk of time management, you may be asking, well, Blob, you keep talking so much about time management, what can I do with my time then? So let me answer that question real quick. In Persona 4, you live as a high school student. There's more to the game than that because this is still a turn-based JRPG, but that's what I think the core of the game is. You are a blank slate, silent protagonist with no friends or skills. You move into a country town for a year to stay with your often absent uncle because your parents are somehow even more absent. Over the course of the game, your goal is to develop bonds and skills that will then benefit you when you jump into a big TV at Walmart with your friends to get to the bottom of a serial killing case, which I must say is quite well written. Even though I knew who the killer was for the vast majority of my playthrough because I made the mistake of searching anything related to the game on the internet, the story still managed to surprise me with multiple little twists and turns that make a story that could have been a predictable slog into a genuinely entertaining murder mystery, even if you already know who did it. It's not like it's some sort of untouchable piece of media. A few story beats come across as unnecessary or convoluted, but it's generally a very entertaining murder mystery story that I became very fond of as I played. In addition to the murder mystery, Persona 4 is very indulgent in requiring the player to experience filler with the main cast just hanging out with each other. Some people can't be bothered to give a fuck about comedic scenes that focus on a group of anime high schoolers' character dynamics, and I'm very sympathetic to this viewpoint. However, the many scenes where the group gets to breathe and have fun with each other are some of the most charming and memorable parts of the game for me, and they're just limited enough that I rarely felt tired of them. Not everything is a hit with these characters, but the inclusion of these mostly entertaining parts of the story create memorable landmarks that are enjoyable to sit through. Whether it be going to the beach, hanging out at Walmart with your little cousin, a festival, or a ski trip, it all contributes to give the story a light and charming vibe despite its dark subject matter. Enough about the story though, what about the actual video game? I'll start off by saying this. Most games with a story, even including a lot of RPGs that I've played, have important story moments that get sprinkled into gameplay moments. Persona 4 has important gameplay moments sprinkled into story moments. For fuck's sake, the first fight happened 2.5 hours into my first playthrough, and the first time I could walk around to make my own choices was 4.5 hours in, holy shit. Overall, this game's pacing is pretty good, all things considered, but even if the story is interesting to you, it's practically undeniable that waiting 4 hours to introduce the main gameplay loop of a video game is just ridiculous. I won't say there's no gameplay moments in this beginning chunk, because you go through a floor of a dungeon and fight the first 2 bosses, but it feels more railroaded than an actual fucking train infrastructure. Choosing to ignore what's ultimately a very small part of any given playthrough though, the actual gameplay loop is immensely enjoyable. Making autonomous choices, trying to form bonds with various characters, both with and without weight to the main plot, and otherwise just trying to improve your skills is something that is inherently fun to me. None of it feels pointless during dungeons either, because it all serves to help make you stronger by giving your party new abilities or helping in some other fashion. Speaking of dungeons, that is also the main other part of the game, and also where the game is at its weakest in my opinion. If the entire game was the dungeons, then I probably wouldn't be speaking so highly of it. However, they happen just scarcely enough that they never get super boring. Let's be real. You're running through randomly generated patterns of rooms and corridors that are all empty other than some enemies and chests. There's a lot to be desired here, but they're still pretty enjoyable when you play them at the rate the game gives them to you. While the dungeons themselves are lacking, the combat is one of the most enjoyable turn-based systems that I've ever played. It's so fast, and enjoyment is greatly enhanced by the great presentation that everything in this game has. The 2D visuals, and especially the UI, are just so clean and readable while still being pleasing to look at from a graphic design perspective. The UI is great in all facets of the game, just like the music. If there's one element of the presentation that just wraps everything in this game into a nice little bow, it's this fucking banger of a soundtrack. While I was playing, I genuinely wondered if I liked the game or just had an addiction to the music. I'd just be constantly vibing to songs that I still can't fucking understand the lyrics to, even though they're in English, and then late into the game, the soundtrack displays its range when the songs that play through the day are replaced with this ambient track that, when combined with other factors, contribute to make such a welcoming town temporarily feel tense and soul-crushing. If I had to pick a favorite track though, that'd be Backside of the TV. Every time I jump into the TV to save someone, this music's just egging me on like bam bam, bam bam, bam bam. It's great. In general, the sound design in this game is great, if a little bit stock sounding. But that really doesn't matter when you get a critical hit and it's just like...
Enemy down!
It's so satisfying to get a critical hit in this game. They all hit so hard that I wonder if my depression came back. So did we deserve Persona 4? No, we did not deserve it. I've been giving this game some fucking sloppy toppy, and I'd recommend it to anyone who thinks my description of it sounds appealing. Also, I fucking hate the nurse. Goodbye.